Hey Neapolitans, Neapolitan gal here. Well, it took me a couple of days to figure out what I wanted our next topic to be for video, and I thought about it last night and I decided what our next topic is. So our next topic, which is now, is about something that's a little close to home. A lot of women these days have joined this weird movement that says that if you have a baby any other way than the old-fashioned way, meaning if you have a cesarean, you got off easy. I don't know about you, but anyone who's ever had major surgery, including a cesarean, will tell you that they definitely didn't get off easy. A cesarean typically is medically necessary. Some OBGYNs err on the side of caution and require their patients, if they've had a cesarean in the past, to have another cesarean whenever they have their next child. And I don't think that, from what I'm hearing now, there really is no basis for them to go on that. They just, that's what they were always told, so that's what they've always done. But I think I've heard recently that that's not always the case anymore. But anywho, if you're a mom and you've had to have a cesarean, if you are a mommy-to-be, and there's any chance at all that you'll have to have a cesarean, maybe you're having a really big baby and you're fairly petite, maybe something may go wrong and in the last second, like for me, they'll have to do a cesarean. Whatever the case may be, don't feel yourself as any less of a mommy for having to have that cesarean or having had that cesarean. Because I am here to tell you, if you have not had to experience it yet, when one is forced upon you, like it was me, because my nurse, when I was delivering, decided to clock out instead of go home, instead of delivering, and my delivery team were all busy in other rooms delivering children, well, babies I should say. So my charge nurse, or my nurse in the delivery room, the doctor says, okay, well, she's ready to start pushing. Down the epidural, up the Pitocin, and let's get it rolling. Doctor leaves room. Nurse takes another look. She's, nah, you're not ready yet. So she ups the epidural, downs the Pitocin, so that I'm not having that urge to push. And because of that, and we couldn't get anyone's attention because everybody was busy in delivery, another hour passed. And by the time that other hour passed, and I had already been in labor for quite some time, I was rushed into a cesarean. Rushed into an operating room and had to have a cesarean. It was not my choice. I fought it tooth and nail. They finally said, if you don't do this now, there's a chance that there will be some brain damage. I said, okay, do it. I said, but you do realize that, this is not something I planned for. But I grew up, I did what I had to do. And some women may have a communicable disease, like an STD of some sort, and a lot of those STDs are passed to a child through a vaginal delivery, and may or may not be passed through to a child with a very, very small margin for most if they're delivered cesarean. So there's a lot of good reasons to have a cesarean if one is necessary. But there is zero reason to be shamed by the community at large, or by these group of women who think that having a cesarean section is the easy way out. No, it's not the easy way out. You get the easy way out. You get to push. Yeah, it tears you down there for a little while, but you get to push, you get to have your baby, and if all goes well, you're out the door in about 12 hours. Having a baby isn't a week-long thing like it used to be. If you have a baby, everybody's good, you're home with in less than a day's time. With a cesarean, that doesn't happen. With a cesarean section, women because it is major surgery. There are staples and stitches involved. There are a lot more things involved because you have been cut. Now, typically, a lot of OBGYNs now, and I had my son nearly 16 years ago, they're doing the bikini line cut. Some are still doing the vertical from belly button to pubic bone. But most of them are doing the bikini line cut now, which is a little bit better for aesthetics because, you know, your hair kind of covers it up if you go natural, but it's still a visible scar. It's still there, you know. It's one more birth scar that you're going to have. But when you have a cesarean, you're left with that scar. You are left with very little, if any, feeling where that scar is because of all the nerves they have to sever to get to the baby. It is a long recovery, very long recovery, and because you do have an incision, you know, it's at least, you know, that long across that area, you have to be careful of infection. I mean, there's a lot that goes into a cesarean that you have to be careful of that is not there and not in play when you have a vaginal birth. And that's why you have to spend an extra day or so in the hospital that you didn't plan for. Now, because it was my nurse's fault that I had to have a cesarean because she was negligent, about 2 weeks after my son was born, I wrote a very educated, wordy, very well put together, intelligent letter to the hospital, and I said in no uncertain terms, I said there was zero reason that I had to have a cesarean, none. If the nurse that had been taking care of me had done her job and done what she was told by the OBGYN, I would have had my son much sooner. I would have had him vaginally. He would have been born. It was fairly late at night, so I probably would have spent the night there, but, you know, still, he'd have been born. We'd have been resting comfortably, or as comfortably as possible after having a nearly 9-pound baby, but still resting, and we probably would have been discharged the next morning. But because I didn't have him till right at 9 o'clock that night, and it was a cesarean, which is major surgery, I had to spend 2 more days in the hospital, which is an enormous bill. Insurance or not, that's an enormous bill. So I wrote them a very intelligent, legal sounding letter that was very concise and said, if this nurse had done her job, I would not have had to spend the extra 2 days in the hospital. I would have been able to deliver my son. I would have been able to, you know, recover quicker. I would have been out the hospital and on my way home. But because she went home and didn't let anybody know that she had another mother in there that should be pushing but isn't pushing because she wanted to go home, I wound up having to stay there 2 additional days that I didn't plan for and shouldn't have had to plan for. So, you know, I'm grateful that they went ahead and did the surgery and got my son out, but, you know, it's still, I didn't have to have it if she had done her job. So, no, when we have cesarean sections, we go through a lot more than you do. Usually it's not by choice. Usually it isn't completely necessary. That doesn't make us less of a woman. It just means that something medically came up and we could not do it. That does not mean that the next time that we couldn't do it. And when there is a medical error by a medical team or person in that team, that has nothing to do with the mother. Nothing to do with the mother. You do not personally come into a delivery and a live birth and decide, let's have major surgery. No one goes into it like that. Nada. Nobody goes in to, and says, I don't want the baby coming out naturally. I want you to cut me wide open. No one does that. That only happens for medically necessary reasons, or for the doctors who still believe that it's better after one to have the rest that way. So for those of you who are on that cesareans are the easy way out, no. You're right up there with the guys who think childbirth in general is easy. And then you hand them one of those contraction machines and stick them on their stomachs, and real quick they realize that it's nothing to laugh at. So get over yourselves. Go find another cause that you want to jump on the bandwagon for, but major surgery is not the easy way out. So for those of you who are on my side, which is the majority of everybody, yay for us. For those of you who think I'm deaf and who thinks I'm wrong, see ya. Have a good one, guys.